Welcome. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Acts 2 workshop, The Power of Music in Caring for Loved Ones with Dementia, Gateway to Connection and Well-Being. I'm Dr. Rob Glukoff, servant leader of the Acts 2 project and professor, Florida State University College of Medicine. In case you are unfamiliar with the term Acts 2, it stands for the African American Alzheimer's Caregiver Training and Support Project 2. Folks, I am very enthusiastic about the prospects of tonight's workshop. This workshop offers practical information on harnessing the power of music to improve the well-being of loved ones with dementia and their family caregivers. Caregivers are often faced with challenges in assisting their loved ones with dementia to bathe, travel to distant locations, and to take medications. As a caregiver myself, I know how music can make these activities flow more easily. Our first two presenters, music therapist Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernández, will offer guidance on how to use music for building partnership in caregiving activities and for reducing caregiving distress. They also will discuss best methods for accessing professional music therapy for loved ones with dementia and the costs of such services. Our third speaker, Dr. Bakan, will share innovative ethnomusicology-based methods to increase the quality of life of older adults with dementia and others with chronic health conditions. Last, Tomeka Norton-Brown will provide information about faith-integrated caregiving skills, training, and support, and dementia care resources. Before I introduce this evening's presenters, I want to recognize our partners, those who have contributed both resources and guidance in the development of the Acts 2 Dementia Caregiver Workshop Series. Acts 2's primary collaborators are the Florida State Primitive Baptist Convention, African Methodist Episcopal Church 11th Episcopal District, Florida Progressive Missionary and Educational Baptist Convention, Florida Church of God in Christ, and the Florida State University College of Medicine. Turning now to tonight's four inspiring speakers. Our first presenter, Dr. Lori Gooding, is Associate Professor of Music Therapy and Area Coordinator for the Music Education and Music Therapy programs at Florida State University. She received her Bachelor of Music Education degree from the University of South Carolina and later obtained her Master and PhD degree in Music Education and Music Therapy from Florida State University. Dr. Gooding is a board-certified music therapy with extensive clinical experience, including working with adults who have chronic health conditions, children receiving special education services, and older adults in skilled nursing and dementia care facilities. Her research and teaching interests lie in the integration of music therapy using person and family-centered approaches across a variety of healthcare settings. In regard to national service, Dr. Gooding is immediate past president of the American Music Therapy Association. Our second presenter, Dr. Flor del Cielo Hernández, is assistant professor of Florida State University and a board-certified music therapist. Dr. Hernández earned her undergraduate degree at the Conservatory of Music of Puerto Rico and completed her master and doctoral degrees in music education and music therapy at FSU. She has had a wide range of clinical experience, including music therapy for persons with dementia, eating disorders, persons with depression, and substance abuse. Her work with individuals living with dementia has been deeply informed by her journey as a caregiver within her own family. As a bilingual therapist, she provides patient-centered music therapy services in Spanish and English, ensuring cultural and linguistic accessibility. Our third presenter, Dr. Michael Bakan, is professor of ethnomusicology and head of the World Music Ensembles program in the College of Music at Florida State University. He received his a bachelor's degree in percussion performance from the University of Toronto and his PhD in ethnomusicology at the University of California. Dr. Bakan has been on faculty at FSU since 1994, during which time he has received multiple awards for his scholarship in ethnomusicology, such as his internationally acclaimed books on Balinese gamelan balaganjur and music and autism. As a drummer and percussionist, Dr. Bakan has performed with well-known musicians such as George Clinton and his legendary funk band, Parliament, John Cage and Tito Puente, as well as playing with several leading gamelan groups in Bali, Indonesia. Michael recently has shifted his focus to Alzheimer's disease and related conditions, applying his ethnomusicology and percussion skills to enhance the quality of life of older adults with dementia and their family caregivers. Last, Mrs. Tomeka Norton-Brown is coordinator of the Acts 2 project at FSU College of Medicine. She has worked in the area of survey development and evaluation for the past 24 years. Tomeka was a caregiver for her aunt and uncle with dementia and has a passion for helping others. In her role as Acts 2 coordinator, she has been a great source of encouragement and support for literally hundreds of family caregivers of older adults with dementia across Florida. Tomeka is also a strong leader by example in her church community. During the course of this workshop, I encourage viewers to share questions to be answered after each presentation using the text message function of Facebook Live. We also will have a 15-minute question and answer period following the last presentation. And now we have Dr. Lori Gooding and Dr. Flor del Cielo Hernández. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
We are so privileged to have the two of you here this evening. We're just grateful and looking forward to your presentation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, Dr. Hernández and I thought we would start with a little music this evening. And so if you will go to the next slide, please, Melissa. We are going to do one that hopefully you all know. It's a perfect song for this time of year. So if you're up to joining us wherever you are, as long as you're not driving and belting out tunes and getting distracted at the same time, please join us. We hope you sang along, and that's going to come back. So if you didn't, you're going to have more chances. So next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about why music makes such a good tool for both helping you as you work with your loved ones and for your own self-care. So music has nonverbal possibilities. You can hum, you can listen. There are a lot of things that you can do with music without having to be able to be verbal and use words. Music can engage multiple senses. As you were singing, if you were singing along, I hope you were bopping around and dancing and moving to it as well. And so music is something that gets us engaged in multiple ways. It can generate our creativity. And you're going to see a lot of that with Dr. Bakan in just a few moments when he talks about all of the different things. And I think he's even going to talk to us a little bit about improvising and a number of things. So it can help us be creative. It can engage us physically, intellectually, emotionally. So we can use it to exercise. We can use this to help us process and think through things. And then we can use it to help us express ourselves. And then probably, and last on the slide, but certainly not least, is musical interactions can be flexible to accommodate a range of needs and tasks. So you can use music by yourself, you can use it with each other, you can use it with an entire group. So there's a number of different ways that you can engage in music to really pull people together.
One more thing about that, I guess going into more reasons to use music is definitely something that we can do naturally without having to be connected to anything. You can be doing the dishes and then start humming or singing. A lot of people point out to the fact that a lot of kids start singing before they start actually speaking. So you have all the freedom to make music. It doesn't matter if people will say, "Ooh, that didn't sound good." It really doesn't matter. As long as you can make something, you can make music, right? So music can improve care for persons living with dementia, and it can also help us connect with others. Music can help persons living with dementia connect in the here and now, which is a beautiful thing whenever you see it happening. And music can help evoke responses and memories and can calm those with dementia.
Yeah, I'd love to share an example about the here and now. In one of the facilities that I was working in, I worked in a dementia care unit. And in this particular unit, we usually had 10, 12 different individuals who were there. And in this particular situation that I'm thinking about, I was working with a woman in her late 80s, and she was in some of the more advanced stages of Alzheimer's. And she really, really enjoyed engaging in music, but because of being in an advanced state, she didn't really know where she was, or some of the things that we see commonly had didn't recognize people and that sort of thing. But we started singing a really common folk song, and after we finished the folk song, she stopped singing and she was playing percussion instruments, and she stopped and she looked at me and she said, "That song doesn't make any sense. Those words are ridiculous." And she was right. The song didn't make any sense and the words were ridiculous. But in that moment of engaging in the music, she was able to connect and be really grounded in the here and now and recognize that the words didn't match. And so that was such a beautiful thing to see, because normally she didn't understand where she was, how old she was, any of the things you see commonly in more advanced stages. So it's just amazing to get to see her really connect in that moment because of the music.
And not only connected in the here and now, but also connecting with you.
Yeah.
So sometimes people will not recognize their family members, but they will recognize the songs. And on those moments, again, you are connecting with your loved one. Your loved one is connecting with you without even realizing, but music is being that tool to connect us.
Yeah. So we'll go to the next slide and keep sharing more. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of music therapy in caring for loved ones with dementia. And as you can see here, there's someone playing a tambourine. So what we tend to do in music therapy is get individuals actively engaged in making music. And we're going to talk about that a little bit as we go to the next slide.
So what is music therapy? That's the question.
That is a question we answer a lot.
So music therapy in dementia care is individualized personal care through music. This care is provided by a credentialed music therapist with specialized training that allows them to adapt music therapy interventions in real time to meet the needs of individuals and their family carers. This being said, music therapists provide music therapy interventions or direct care themselves, or they train musicians or carers to deliver music activities. And this is called indirect music therapy or music therapy skill sharing. But the main important, as you were saying, is the live music aspect, in which we can slow down the song so the person living with dementia can actually recall the word and participate, or we start making music depending on the skill that the person has. Can they move fast? Do they need something slow? We can make that, and we're trained And that's why we have to be all credentialed.
Yeah.
We're trained to be able to provide these things depending on what we're seeing in the environment.
So why don't we show them an example? We're going to bring back Go Tell It on the Mountain again. You're going to hear it a couple of different times as we go through the evening. And we're going to kind of give you an example of how we might adapt. So we'll start singing. I'm going to ask Flor to go kind of a little bit on the upbeat side first. And we're going to imagine that our loved one with dementia is struggling a little bit with the words. So I'm going to struggle a little bit with the words, keeping up. And then just watch how she adapts that to better support me as I struggle with the words. So that's an example. You saw her kind of adjusting to where I was when she noticed I needed a little more support. She was changing how she was singing. And then she even left some space so that I could contribute some of the words by myself so that I'd have a chance to hear myself and engage in a different way. So that's one of the things that a music therapist might do, is that real-time adaptation.
I think another song that I have seen being used like this often when somebody with dementia all of a sudden can remember the words is "You Are My Sunshine." That is such a beautiful cue whenever you sing "You Are My
Sunshine."
So even if you have to sing a couple of times, the person start remembering such a lullaby, and then they start filling in the words as well.
Yeah, great. So we'll go on to the next slide and hopefully give you some more great information. Go ahead.
So why music therapy? Well, music therapy can engage persons living with dementia, their carers, and families. Again, the active music making is such an important thing, and even listening to music, something that we all like and love together. Music therapy can offer in group or individual formats, and both have their benefits. And music therapists can train carers to safely and effectively use music, extending benefits outside music therapy sessions. Whatever you do in the session, you can also take home and continue. You can learn how to use the music in benefit to decrease some of the agitation or to decrease some of the confusion as well.
Okay, next slide, please. So why should someone receive music therapy? Music therapy should be used to provide direct care for persons who are showing behavioral and psychological symptoms. Because we're trained as both musicians and therapists, we're really best used in situations that need that additional level of training and skills, right? So that doesn't mean that only music therapists can use music with individuals that are showing those behavioral and psychological symptoms. But if they are really struggling with those aspects, then that's when a therapist can be your best benefit. We can also be involved in teaching staff and families how to use music. So we can support you in teaching you how to best use music so that when you're not in a music therapy session, you can continue to use the music to continue those benefits outside of the sessions. Next slide, please.
So what happens in music therapy? Well, music therapists use intentional, purposeful music interventions that are adapted to community, group, or individual needs. Some of the common interventions used in dementia care include improvisation and active music making, as we have been saying, singing or songwriting, and listening to live or recorded music. I will say, I'm going to go back very quickly to one of the examples. A personal example I had is my father had to do some testing, and he was in a completely different environment. He didn't speak the language. He was very anxious, and he started becoming agitated. And I remember at that moment thinking, oh my gosh, what I can't do, because he needed to be still for the exam. If not, they will have to take him back to the room and then do it again, and he was gonna be, upset one more time. So I was trying to figure out, what do I do? What do I do? And in the moment of being inside the stress, I go, oh my gosh, let's start singing. So I started singing all hymns that I remember growing up, and he started calming down. So I had to sing very slow at some times so he will calm down, and I'll pick up the pace some other times. Um, the the exam got complete. The downside, the person had to stop every now and then whenever my father sing along, because that apparently will mark on the brain as well. So the person was like, okay, we're singing. And I said, Dad, just listen, just listen. But that was a moment in which everything became full circle. Not only I have used it to help other people, at that point it was my father, who I love dearly. So at that point, I was helping him with the music, and I was able to use all the techniques I was learning I already learned in school.
Yeah. And Flora brings up a really good point. She used music that her father preferred and was familiar with. And so when you're making choices about the music that you use, you want to make sure that the music is something that individual, that your loved one likes, enjoys, prefers. And it's even better if it's not only something they like and prefer, but it's songs that they're very familiar with, because it's going to be a lot more effective in countering some of those memory issues that you see with dementia.
And that's why it's so good at prompting some of the words that they may forget every now and then, but because it's preferred music, it's highly motivating for them. So they get to sing along and remember those words and memories as well. So let's move on to the next slide.
So what do music therapists teach staff and carers? So what are we doing if we were to come and work with you and help you better use music with your loved ones? So we do exactly that. We train carers about how to best use music. So we talk about using music for entertainment, exercise, background music during meals, because meals can be a challenging time. Just listening, whether that's for enjoyment or other reasons, facilitating activities of daily living, having a song that you do when you get dressed, and you use the same song every morning when you're getting dressed, and that's the dressing song. Helping tasks go more smoothly to kind of decrease agitation or distraction, creating new memories, singing together, singing with their grandchildren, all of those wonderful things that can create those memories, which also is facilitating enjoyable and meaningful interactions. Soothing, whether that's because they're upset or you're trying to calm them so they can sleep better. There's a lot of wonderful ways to use music for soothing. And then, of course, improving mood. And hopefully all of you have had experiences in your own life where you've used music in many of these ways, if not all of them. So let me give you an example. So a music therapist might train a staff member about how to use music during activities of daily living. And as I said earlier, I used the example of dressing. So there might be a song that you use that either you rewrite the words to from the original song that actually put cues in to help them put their socks on or whatever it is, or you just might have a tune that you only sing when it's time to get dressed, and that becomes a cue for what activity you want them to participate in. Have you had any experiences with that?
I think that's one of my favorites. Talking about creativity, you're in the moment, and then you're like, I need you to raise your arm, lift your arm so I can put the shirt. And then all of a sudden you find yourself singing along to let's raise your hand, let's raise the other. So you get to create your song. But I think one of the things I have enjoyed the most is to have those cue songs that are specific for specific, like the dinner. getting ready for dinner or getting ready to take a bath. That's something that sometimes can be very challenging. So having the music cueing what's going to happen during the day helps out. Now, in my experience, I have used highly motivating music for my family members when the activity is the most challenging. So I have to really get to know them well and know what music will be best for whenever I want them to calm down versus whenever I want them to keep on going and moving and doing what I need to do and be motivated and distracted sometimes with the what's happening sensory wise instead of what is happening that they do not want to do.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. All right, what kinds of music activities do music therapists teach others to use? And we've kind of highlighted these already, but they're both formal and informal music experiences that we help you think about or learn how to do when you're engaging. So it could be something as simple as a guideline for music listening, giving you ideas for songs that might be most appropriate for mealtime or for sleep and that sort of thing. You can do sing-alongs, whether this is formal, like in a nursing home or skilled nursing facility, or just casual busting out a song and singing it. And then you can move to music, which can be a great way if your loved one is struggling to be active. Dancing, moving to music can be great ways just to get them up and going, or even in the chair going.
And in the case of one of my family members, they were laying down most of the time. So movement to music, just a little bit of movement was good to go. You know, I didn't expect the whole dance. I just expected a little bit of shoulder, a little bit of head movement, you know, something to show me that they were moving and that was still important for them.
Yeah.
The sing-along is my favorite though.
Yes.
As I'm holding a guitar.
She does like a good sing-along. And if you know what boom whackers are, she would best like a sing-along with a sing-along and boom whackers. So
it's just the act of making music is just such a beautiful thing, and it connects people even when you're all in different times in life, different seasons. It's just such a connecting moment. So yeah, I'm down for a good sing-along any given time.
Yes. All right, let's go on and see what else we have to share. So we're going to talk a little bit to end our presentation today about how you can use music yourself, because everything that we've talked about before has been about how you can use music to help facilitate your interactions with your loved one. But let's look at self-care a little bit.
Let's go to the next one. So what is creative caregiving? Creative activities increase well-being for persons with dementia as well as carers. Creative activities can improve carers' perspective of daily challenges and increase their flexibility in an adjustment to their caregiver role. That's very important. Creative activities increase social connection, self-esteem, and empathy, and allow carers to explore new activities. And creative caregiving integrates creative activities to improve their lives of those with dementia and their carers. I think using music for yourself whenever you're in that position in which you have to take care of somebody else is so important as well. We have been talking a lot about the music that other people like, the person that we're caring for likes, but what about the music that you like?
Yeah.
What about what is motivating for you? What's going to give you a reset?
Yeah. Sometimes just putting on headphones and taking 3 minutes to yourself to listen to your own song, your own music, whether you're just listening, whether you're praying along with it, whether you're meditating, whether you're just walking around the house or you know, around a block for just a few minutes, that can be a great way to just give yourself that time to decompress and to just find a little bit of a release in the midst of those challenges that caregiving can be. So let's go on to the next slide and take a look at what else we have. So what role does music play in creative caregiving? Integrating music experiences into caregiving can provide benefits for your loved ones and for you. And that's probably the most important thing to remember tonight. I mean, hopefully you've gotten some good nuggets of in terms of ideas of how to use music. But just remember that it can be something that can be good for your loved one, for yourself, and for the two of you or your whole families together. And it's important for you to consider the different ways, receptive ways, which are basically just you listening to and responding to music. So that idea of listening to music and meditating to it or praying with it, that's a receptive use of music. Or much more active, as Flor talked about with your sing-alongs and your playing instruments. Both types of experiences are valuable and have different purposes. So when you want to get them up and going and a little bit more active, get their energy levels up, that participatory or active music is the way to go. When you yourself, as an example, are just trying to find that center yourself, find your calmness, then you probably will be better with something a little more receptive. Breathing to music, praying along with music, meditating to music, and so on. So let's go on to the next slide and see what else we can talk about.
So what are the benefits of music for your health and well-being? That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Music can contribute to quality of life and well-being in later life. Music can provide opportunities for you to express yourself and connect with others. That, again, very important. Music can increase your sense of relaxation and improve your mood. And engaging in music can enhance your cognitive well-being.
Absolutely.
Again, remembering the words. But I think I'm going to go back to the mood. I think that's very important because sometimes when people feel overwhelmed, it is difficult to get out of that moment. It's necessary, but it's very difficult. So just singing along again, something you can sing at any given time. You can do this, you don't need the radio, but I mean, if you want to sing on to the radio too, that will be good. But you can just make music and express yourself, but also help your mood.
Yeah. And sometimes in songs, you can find other people who can connect, who can relate, who maybe have felt the same way that you have, and hearing them sing that and talk about it in their lyrics can help us feel like we're not the only ones that have experienced this. So that's really powerful too.
Well, that's why sometimes we go, that's my song. Yeah, that's exactly my song. They're saying exactly how I feel. And it's because you can relate to that.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next slide and talk a little bit about how you can use music. You can sing with others to improve mood. We've just been talking about that. You can also sing to connect with each other. And both of those things can happen at the same time. Playing a musical instrument can help you increase your attention, improve your memory, and improve your cognitive functioning. So learning an instrument or picking one back up if you haven't played it in a long time can be a great strategy.
Yeah.
And then participating in musical activities like songwriting, improvisation, composition, those can all be outlets for your own creative expression, and that can positively impact your well-being and sense of accomplishment. And I think you're going to get to do a little bit of that with Michael in just a few minutes. So let's go ahead and go on.
How else can you use music? Listening to self-selected familiar music can help you improve your mood, reduce stress, and increase relaxation. Listening to your preferred music while you exercise can improve your exercise performance. And we know that one, right?
Yes.
We should not walk with a slow song unless that's what we want to do, right? We need something to help us out. Listening to music can improve your sleep. Use music that is meditative, instrumental, and has a tempo between 60 and 80 beats per minute. So slow it down so your brain can slow down. Again, don't slow it down on the exercise, but slow it down on the sleep.
Yeah, and just for a frame of reference, 60 beats a minute is like 1 beat per second. So that, if that gives you an idea of about how fast that is.
Am I too fast? Yeah. Here we go.
Yeah, see, now we slowed it down.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hill. angels and everywhere go, tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born.
Now, when you're using music to sleep, it's best to use music without words.
Yes.
Because what can happen if you have those words is you can start to pay attention to them.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely recommend using instrumental music when you are using music to sleep with. And it absolutely can help mask out things that are block things that are happening outside, in addition to just helping you relax so that you can sleep better. All right, so let's go on and ask. I think Laura has something else.
Yes, I wonder because I know my mother have used slow music to help my father slow down and go to sleep, but then it helps her out too. So it became her prefer as well, and it kind of is signal it is time for us to go to sleep. So it became a mutual thing. But it was again, it was a lot of hymns being played by piano, and some of them were fast, and I was like, Mom, you gotta slow it down. So we did have a recording that was a little bit, it was a slow Amazing Grace.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. And are there other ways to music? There are always other ways to use music. So our answer is going to be yes to that. But more specifically, is music can be used to support religious experiences and foster spiritual well-being. It can build hope, can help you communicate with God and stay grounded in your faith, and it can provide comfort, reassurance, peace, and release. So in addition to very practical things like helping you sleep, music can be part of your own spiritual health and well-being, and help you connect with your own faith, which can be such a powerful source of support as you are providing care. And Florence just talked about that with her parents and using hymns that to sleep, which then became something that they did together, and then began to serve multiple roles as they interacted with each other and with the care activities.
But this is exactly what happens in church. Sometimes you know that it's time of prayer because the music slows down, or because there's specific chords that once they play, it's prayer time. I know exactly what's going to happen. So you're cueing your brain and you're signaling this is a moment in which I'm going to use the music to foster that spiritual well-being.
Yeah. So that's something that we haven't talked about, but that music becomes a cue so that your body and you know how to respond without even having to consciously think about it. It just gets you, and we see that time and time again with children. We use it as a very powerful tool to help them know, like the cleanup song when it's time to clean up, that it's a cue. And so we can do that same thing for ourselves and for our loved ones. So I think we are done. I think our last slide is just our contact information. So we hope that you got some great strategies, or at least some seeds planted for some great ideas about how to use music, not only for caregiving, but also for yourself. So I think we are open for any questions. I think we have enough time to do that. And there's Rob. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Dr. Gooding, Dr. Del Cielo Hernández. That was such a powerful presentation, such good examples of the use of music and music therapy in it for enhancing the quality of daily activities for both, the person who with dementia and their care partner. Very grounded, very helpful. I just have two quickie questions, and we can elaborate when we have our panel presentation at the end of the workshop. If I wanted to access music therapy at home with my loved one with dementia, how do I contact a music therapist?
Right. So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. We have a couple of ways to find us. There's something called Sunshine State Music Therapy on Facebook. And that's all of the music therapists in Florida, or at least the ones that have joined, and most of them have. So there's information there. And we have two professional associations, the American Music Therapy Association. That's the one I'm past president for. You can find a therapist. They have a Find a Therapist link. And then the Certification Board for Music Therapists, cbmt.org. You can also find a music therapist there, and you just have to fill in the state and the city, and it'll pull up music therapists in that area. And of course, you can reach out to the university, and we can help connect you as well. We may not be as familiar with some in, say, Miami, but we can certainly find connections to help you find them.
I was going to say, you can Google music therapy Tallahassee, Florida, and then some of the private practice companies or the companies that actually have music therapy employed, they're going to show up as well.
Last question. At this point, there'll be others. Can you tell us what are the range of costs for music therapy? Are there vehicles, third-party options for accessing music therapy for loved ones with dementia as part of their care plan?
Mm-hmm. So she's looking at me because this is my president hat here.
I'm also thinking into wait, what?
So costs vary based on whether it's individual or group. And it depends on which provider you have, but some insurances do cover it. It is also covered under some Medicaid and Medicare options. And then there's private pay, there's scholarships, there's a number of different ways to access care and have that covered. So Florida's a little bit more challenging than some of the other states in terms of funding, but there are options, and we can get, if anybody had a question about that, we can certainly provide. And the reason why we're not giving a specific cost is it really depends on whether it's self-pay, Medicaid, etc.
Well, I wanted to add, there's some specific agencies in town that will include music therapy as part of their treatment care. So at that point, you're not looking necessarily at how much it costs. You're looking at, I want to request this for my family. So it all depends, yeah.
Thank you. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about access and in the panel presentation. I just wanted to thank both of you. Just an outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
Really grounded. Oh, we do have a comment from Serena Collins. Thank you, Serena, for joining us.
Thank you.
Great job, ladies. I'll give an amen to that. Dr. Zan Novakovsky is with us. Love the level of detail here about coverage options. Thank you, Dr. Zan, for being with us.
Thank you, everyone.
And now, folks, we have Dr. Michael Bakan. Dr. Bakan, well, they've been plugging you all along their presentation, and I can see, well, I know why, but bottom line, we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. G and Tomeka. This is great. And I just want to say hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to be here sharing this space with my dear friends and brilliant colleagues, Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernández. And I'm grateful to Dr. G and Tomeka for inviting my participation today, as well as to Esperance Dombe, who's in the background there, for coordinating this exciting online event. So thanks to all of you. My presentation is titled Voice, Movement, and Rhythm in a Musicking Activity for People Living with Dementia and Their Care Partners. And so I'll do some preliminary talking, but hopefully most of the time we're going to be making some music together. And then I'll show you some exciting videos towards the very end. Let me just get something set up here very quickly. All right, there we go. Okay, so a few important points I'd like to make here at the outset. First, unlike Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernández, I am not a music therapist. Rather, I'm what's called an ethnomusicologist, big word. That is a musician and researcher who actively engages with people to understand how they make and experience music and why it matters to them that they do, paying special attention to how music around the world relates to the diverse cultural contexts in which it is made and experienced. Second, I am, as Dr. G noted, relatively new to the field of Alzheimer's and dementia research and care, since my specialization for much of my career as an ethnomusicologist has been in the areas of autism, neurodiversity, and disability studies. So that's a little bit of a shift I'm in the process of making. In another sense, however, I have been connected to dementia-centered work for a long time. This mainly on account of the fact that I'm married to Dr. Megan Bakan, a psychologist with her PhD from FSU, who for more than a decade worked as a care provider for the Alzheimer's Project here in Tallahassee, running day programs for people with dementia and their caregivers, while also serving as a dementia community and family educator. Collaborating and consulting with Megan on various projects, along with doing some volunteer work in the music realm for the Alzheimer's Project and other organizations, has provided insights and perspectives that inform what I wish to share with you today. Just what that is may be seen essentially as an amalgam of two main things. First, the adoption and adaptation of methods and philosophies I've drawn from my research and shared musicking experiences with autistic and otherwise neurodivergent people for a long time. And second, my experiences, again, more recent, and the lessons I've learned from my direct experience in Alzheimer's dementia-centered environments. Third tier of influence deserves brief mention here as well, that being my recent collaborations with physicians, researchers, and music therapists at the Johns Hopkins University Center for Music and Medicine in Baltimore, in particular with the center's director, Dr. Alex Panseliat, a neurologist, and his music therapy team associates, Dr. Carrie Devlin, Dr. Kiram Kong, and Jason Armstrong Baker. Mr. Baker's therapeutic group drumming approach has been especially helpful in directing my emergent thinking and practice in this kind of work. So now, on to the promised musical activity itself. Its foundation is a rhythmic system from South India called Solkatu. If you all want to say that together, I know I can't hear you, but Solkatu spelled S-O-L-K-A-T-T-U, which, as defined by David P. Nelson in his excellent introductory book, Solkatu Manual, comprises, quote, the spoken rhythms and patterns of hand clapping used by all musicians and dancers in the classical traditions of South India. So India, of course, is a huge continent, thousands of different kinds of music, but you have two great classical traditions, one in the north called Hindustani music, one in the south called Carnatic music, and this is identified with Carnatic music and the various forms of dance that go along with it. Solkatu, at least in the greatly simplified version of it that we'll be working with here today, seems to me to be optimally suited to the task of engaging people living with Alzheimer's and dementia in an accessible yet compelling activity of music making, or as we often call it, musicking. We make a verb out of it. Moreover, Solkatu is an excellent gateway to the exploration of music in world cultures generally, a subject that I believe holds much potential interest for denizens of Alzheimer's dementia communities. But more on that topic some other time, perhaps, maybe next year if they have me back. The performance of Solkatu, which is also known by a different name, Konakol, combines dimensions of cognition, verbalization, movement, and what might be termed non-linguistic languaging, and we'll come back to that momentarily. Its practice would thus seem to align well with efforts to achieve that elusive balance between stimulating and accommodating the unique abilities and challenges of many people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. Here are some key features of relevance in this regard. First, Solokatu involves verbalization, but only of simple non-linguistic syllables known as vocables, rather than words, sentences, or larger units of language. So the lyrics of the song, as it were, are just ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu, things like that. You don't have to be thinking too far into it as far as syntax and grammar and structure and paragraphs and all the rest. Second, it integrates the use of the voice with simple bodily gestures such as hand claps, finger touches, and hand waves. Third, it connects voice, movement, and gesture through the strongly integrative medium of musical rhythm. Fourth, it invites participants to cross the body's midline as they perform their rhythms, productively stimulating cross-hemispheric activity in the brain while providing an enjoyable experience at the same time. Fifth and finally, it brings music making, or musicking again, down to the most foundational levels of rhythmic action, while at the same time being infinitely expandable and accommodating of any and all levels of musical ability, from the most rudimentary to the most complex and virtuosic. And in a little while, I'll show you a couple of videos that demonstrate the extreme crazy virtuosity at the farthest end of Solokatu. But first, we're going to do our basic Solokatu exercise together. And for that experience, I would like to invite Dr. G and Tomeka and Lori and Flor back to the stage to join me in this exercise. All right, thank you. Thank you all for being good players with me here. All right, so the first thing to be aware of is that in what I'm going to show you here, you can always adjust the level to fit what you and your partner are capable of doing and comfortable with doing. So we can start from the most simple hand clap to the most complex rhythmic configurations. All of it is good, and all of it is completely scalable and customizable to the particular situation. So let's start at the most basic level, which is a simple vocal syllable, ta. So let's all say ta together. Ta, 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 ta. Okay, good. Now we're going to add a hand clap. So every time we say ta, we will clap together with that. So ta, 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 ta. Okay. So maybe that's the level that you're comfortable with, just putting together one syllable with one gesture, one with the clapping motion. Maybe you can go one step further. So now we're going to add ka. So ta with a T, ka with a K. And please play along at home. Okay. So now we're going to say ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka. First level, we're going to just clap on the ta and then say the ka. Ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka. Next level, we're going to add a second hand gesture. So the ka is going to be a finger touch. So we're going to go ta with a clap, ka with a finger touch. Ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka, ta, ka. Again, maybe that's where you stop, and that's a really fun activity just to go right that far, okay? Like Lori and Flor were talking about, it's all about flexibility, adaptability to the particular situation. So that's what we're doing here. Okay, maybe we can go a step further. So now we're going to add two more syllables. We got our ta, we got our ka. Now we're going to add a D and a me. D, me. Okay, let's just say D, me first. D, me, D, me, D, me, D, me. Now the D, me's also go with finger touches. Okay, if you want to go really fancy, you can do the different fingers, but we won't worry about that. Okay, so we're just going to go D, me, D, me, D, me, D, me. Great. Well done. Now it gets really fun. If we want to go one step further, we're going to put ta, ka, di, mi together. So first, let's just do that. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Now we're going to do a clap on ta and finger counts on ka, di, and mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. Ta, ka, di, mi. All right, so that's like level 3, level 4. Maybe we want to take it up to level 5. So now we're going to take the full 8-beat pattern, what's called Aditala in the South Indian system, and we're going to go taka di mi, and then taka jo nu. Okay, so jo nu, jo nu, jo nu, jo nu, jo nu. Okay, now this is fun because we're going to add another hand gesture, which is a wave. So for that second half of the cycle, we're going to go clap, wave, clap, wave, clap, wave, clap, wave. Now, if we add the syllables, ta, ka, jo, nu, ta, ka, jo, nu. You could just do the first half. You could just do the second half. You could do one or the other. If you're really grooving with it, we'll take it one step further and we'll do all of them. So now the whole pattern, ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu, ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu, ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu. And just like with Go Tell It on the Mountain, if we change the tempo or the dynamic level, the volume level, we can change the energy. We can modulate. We can make it more calm. We can make it more energetic. Depends what the moment calls for. So let's try it kind of fast. Ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu. Ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu. Ta, ka, di, mi, ta, ka, jo, nu. Okay, now maybe your partner is just doing that the whole time. Or maybe they're doing this. Or maybe they're doing the whole thing. And maybe they're doing the syllables as well. But maybe you, if you're a music therapist, musician, you can then mix it up. So we can double it up. Taka di mi taka jonu, taka di mi taka jonu, taka di mi taka jonu, taka di mi taka jonu. Okay, so you guys keep the clap pattern going. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Taka di mi taka jonu. 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 Taka di, and so on and so forth. And then I could start improvising. Taka di mi taka 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 dang, whatever. Okay, I can do that. Maybe you can't do that, but it's okay. Whatever the level is, it's okay. All right, so now we have, how much time do we have? We have about 5 minutes. And so I'm now going to shift over to show you what goes down in India, in South India, at a whole other level of this thing. So I'm going to go into my share screen, and we're going to pull up this one and check these folks out.
Ta di tum nam tarigita daga ta di tum nam tarigita daga ta di tum nam tarigita daga
ta di tum nam tarigita ta di tum nam tarigita ta di tum nam tarigita
tom nam tarigidadum ta di tom nam tarigidadum ta di tom nam tarigidadum
tadittom nam tarigidadum tadittom nam tarigidadum tadittom nam tarigidadum tarigidadum
tarigidadum tadittom nam tarigidadum ta அப்பன் நீ அம்மை நீ அயனும் நீ அன்புடைய மாமனும் மாமியும் நீ ஒப்புடைய மாதரும் உன் பொருளும் நீ ஒரு குலமும் சுற்றமும் மோரூரும் நீ துய்ப்பணமும் மெய்ப்பணமும் தோற்றுவாய் நீ துணையாய் என் நெஞ்சம் துரபிப்பாய் நீ இப்பன் நீ இம்மை நீ இம்முத்தும் நீ இறைவனும் நீ ஏறுந்த செல்வனும் நீ ஏறுந்த செல்வனும் நீ ஏறுந்த செல்வனும் நீ தாங்க தரிகிட 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 தன் தாங்க தரிகிட 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 தன் தாங்க தரிகிட 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 தரிகிட
ಗುರು ಪುರಂದರ ದಾಸರೇ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಚರಣ ಕಮಲವ ನಂಬಿದೆ ಗರ್ವರಹಿತನ ಮಾಡಿ ಎನ್ನನು ಪೊರೆವ ಭಾರವು ನಿಮ್ಮದೇ ಧಿಮ್ ನಂಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಮ್ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಮ್ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕ ದಿಮ್ ದಿನ್ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ಧಿಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ ಧಿಮ್ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿಮ್ಮಿ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನ ಕಡತಕತ ನಂ ಕಡತಕತ ದಿನ್ನ 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 ಕಡತಕತ
தாம் தரிகிடதகதாம் 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 தத்தக்கிடதக தரிகிடதகதாம் 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 தத்தக்கிடதக தரிகிடதகதாம் தரிகிடதகதாம் கிடதக தரிகிடதகதாம் தரிகிடதகதாம் கிடதக தரிகிடதம் தா கிடதக தரிகிடதம் தி கிடதக தரிகிடதம் தோம் கிடதக தரிகிடதம் நம் கிடதக தரிகிடதம் தா கிடதக தரிகிடதம் கிடதக தரிகிடதம் கிடதக தரிகிடதம் தா கிடதக
And one more for you. This one is just a minute long. So I expect all of you to practice, and then next year I'll come back and we'll do that piece. Okay. Is everybody still there with me? I hope so. Okay. So yeah, just a couple of very quick closing remarks here. I just want to go back to Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernandez's presentation and some of the reasons to use music: building connection with others, connecting in the here and now, calming those with dementia down. These are all things that we can do with this kind of world music exercise. And this is just one of a million possibilities, but it's a particularly compelling one. So thank you all very much. And I will invite Dr. Glukov back to the stage. You're muted, Dr. Glukov.
I do have to remind myself to unmute. At any rate, that was a marvelous example of how you can use clapping, sound, body movement in such a moving and simple manner. It was just right on target. Thank you. Michael, I'm going to save my question for you until the panel presentation. I have at least one or two that I think that might be interesting to you. And now we have Tomeka Norton-Brown, Acts 2 project coordinator, taking up the endpoint here for the fourth presentation. And we thank you, Tomeka, for joining us.
You are so very, very welcome. Good evening, everyone. What I'm going to do is to give information on our Acts 2 project and the services that we provide. And I will say very quickly before I go into our Acts 2 project, I identified with a lot of the things that were talked about here this evening in terms of taking music and applying it to your caregiving situation. I often talk about how my aunt loved hymns, and her favorite hymn was "Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior." So even toward the end, when she was in a state where they said she couldn't understand, anytime we would sing that hymn to her, we would always get some type of a response. So I truly believe in the power of music. I know that it can change. It will change. It does change. I always say that my life itself is a soundtrack. I have a song for anything, any situation that I'm going through. So this information tonight has not only been good for those of you watching us, but for also those of us behind the scenes. It has been good and fed our souls as well. So what I'm now going to do is to give information on our Acts 2 project. Acts 2 is African American Alzheimer's Caregiver Training and Support Project 2. Let me also state before I get into this, that Acts 2, you'll hear us talk about faith and faith-related items. Yes, we are faith-based, which means that we have woven those elements into our program, but we're also ecumenical. So a person not professing a particular faith will not stop us from providing services to them. Next slide, please. Okay. For our Acts 2 program of services, we have three major types of services. The first is our faith-integrated group skills training and support for distressed African American caregivers of older adults with dementia across Florida, or you hear us talk about our 12-session program. We also do dementia awareness presentations and workshops at faith community and elder care venues, as well as what we're doing tonight through social and print media that reaches across Florida and the U.S. And then the third arm is we have individual telephone-based problem solving and information and referral consultations that are available to all dementia caregivers and other stakeholders across Florida and the U.S. Next slide, please. Okay, for our 12-session program. Our 12-session program is for African American, Black Caribbean caregivers residing in the state of Florida. Relative, and we loosely define relative. So I always say a person can be your, you can be related by blood or related by love. Spending 6 hours a week in caregiving does not mean that person needs to live in a home with you. And then you're also experiencing distress from your caregiving duties, and there's a measure that we use for that. So for the 12-session program, it includes 7 group skills building, so 3 caregivers in a group, and 5 individual sessions. All sessions are delivered weekly over toll-free telephone by what we refer to as trained lay pastoral care facilitators. Our lay pastoral care facilitators are simply lay persons, so non-clergy from the faith community, who have either been nominated or self-nominated, and we train them to be able to deliver the 12-session program. Those individual sessions with the facilitator will focus on goal setting and problem solving to address those concerns that have been identified by the caregivers who register to be a part of our program. Next slide, please. The contents of our skills building modules. And let me say really quickly before I talk about the content, every single thing that we do in Acts 2 is absolutely free. So a caregiver will not incur any type of charge for participating in either our 12-session program or receiving any type of service from us. So our program has 6 major components. The first is an overview of the basic characteristics of the dementias, or what I call Dementia 101. We also work with our caregivers on relaxation training that's combined with calming prayer and or meditation. There's an entire myth that relaxation just means coming home, kicking off your shoes and okay, I'm relaxed. When in actuality, there's an entire process of having mind, body, and spirit enter into the state of relaxation, and we work with our caregivers on that. We work with them on effective thinking about the challenges of caregiving, coupled with scripture, just changing the way they're thinking about their caregiving situation. Next slide, please. We also work on, I call this the me time module, just building in pleasant daily activities as a guard against emotional distress. So just negotiating 15 minutes to take a walk or to listen to your favorite type of music. We also work with them on communicating effectively, not only with the care partner with dementia, but with family and health professionals. And then lastly, developing those effective problem-solving skills through personal goal setting. Next slide. When we talk about dementia awareness training, Acts 2 staff members, we will deliver both in-person and virtual dementia awareness training to family caregivers and other interested parties. And some of the example topics that we cover are that basic information about the characteristics and stages of dementia, so that Dementia 101 that I mentioned earlier. We also talk about risk factors for Alzheimer's disease and related conditions, and also strategies for preventing or delaying the onset of dementia. Next slide, please. When we talk about individual problem-solving consultation, 1 or 2 problem-solving sessions delivered over toll-free telephone by trained Acts 2 staff members. The caregiver will prioritize 1 or 2 goals, and they will work with facilitator in developing an action plan. So some of the more common problems we hear about are they're having difficulties with bathing and hygiene. They're having challenges with eating or difficulty getting help from family members. Next slide, please. Information and referral consultation. Same setup, 1 or 2 INR sessions delivered over toll-free telephone by a trained Acts 2 staff member. The caregiver, again, prioritizes their INR goals, and they work with us in developing an action plan. And some of the more common INR concerns that we hear are they want to identify affordable caregiving services. They want to find culturally responsive adult daycare centers, and then locate effective estate planning assistance. Next slide, please. Here are some dementia care resources that are available. There's the Florida Department of Elder Affairs, the Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Foundation of America. There's the Elder Helpline, the Elder Care Locator, Alzheimer's Disease Education and Referral Center. Next slide, please. Interested caregivers can learn more about Acts 2 by phone, by email, or through the web. You can contact us toll-free, 1-866-778-2724. My local to Tallahassee cell phone number, 850-274-4945. And if you call that toll-free number, it also rolls to my cell phone number. My email address is tnnorton@fsu.edu, or you can go to our website, www.acts2project.org, and I encourage you all to go and take a look at our website, or you can contact us here on Facebook at Acts 2 Caregiver Project. The next thing we are going to do is bring everyone up so that we can have a panel discussion. So if you all would bring everyone up, please.
Thank you so much. I have, thank you, Lori, Flor, Michael, Tomeka. What a thoughtful and inspiring presentation. Wow. Let me cut to the chase. Here's number one question. I have a special question for Michael after this. I haven't forgotten, Mike. Holidays are coming. No surprise. Your suggestions and tips for making group gatherings for persons with dementia more engaging, less difficult to experience due to the large numbers of individuals typically in multiple conversations. Tips from the four of you on for that particular situation. Using music therapy, of course, or music.
I guess I'll go first. Since no one else was jumping in, I'll jump in. I'll take the plunge. What I have done in my family, music is such a big part of who we are and everything that we do. First off, I would say don't sweat the small stuff. You know, things are going to happen. There's going to be a lot going on. And my aunt would become very overwhelmed when there were so many people in her space. So because I could kind of recognize the signs, we would always have music playing in the background. Someone would strike up a song, maybe an old song that she loved from her quote unquote juking days, as she used to say. So some catchy tune. Then if it got to be too much, we would start with the hymn singing. She loved to sing the hymns. And so we would start with the hymn singing. So I think the first thing is just to not overthink it, to not feel that every minute has to be planned and go to a T. You just jump in with both feet and go wherever the music takes you, so to speak.
Yeah, I would amplify that. Again, my principal work in this kind of domain has been with autistic and neurodivergent people, children as well as adults. But I think there's a lot that transfers over in the sense of a priority of meeting people where they are. Whatever the activity is, the activity and the outcome are much less important than the process of engagement and endearment. And, one thing that I've written about in my autism book is this idea of these people that we're engaging with, whether they're expert Balinese gamelan musicians, Solkatu virtuosi from India, kids in an exploratory world music playground who are on the autism spectrum, or folks in a respite care, room for dementia care. They are the world's leading experts at being who they are. And we need to honor that, whatever musical space we are co-creating with those people, as soon as the space has been dedicated to that musicking activity, they're in charge in a sense. And we are there to facilitate, to nurture, to calm, to excite, whatever the moment requires. But ultimately, we always want to meet the people where they are and try to understand and engage with them on their own terms rather than any terms that we might bring to the situation.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, T. Dr. Hernández, Dr. Gooding.
So I think one thing that I would add, I'm going to pick up a prop here. Sometimes when they get overwhelmed, having a pair of headphones that they can put on that are noise canceling, that either without music, just to attenuate or lower the volume level, because sometimes it can be the volume that's the part, so they could still hear, but it wouldn't be as loud. Or if they need a moment to themselves, have music that works for them ready to go, and let them put the headphones on, because sometimes they do need to kind of withdraw from that overstimulation that Tomeka was talking about. And that can be a great way to just have that with you and use those if needed.
One more thing that have worked for me is it can feel repetitive, but sometimes with my father and my grandfather, whenever they were not oriented to what was happening and there were people around and they were singing, we will introduce the people that were singing over and over. So I will say, this is Flor. I will not say I'm your daughter. I was like, this is Flor, and we're going to be singing this song. Here we go. And somebody else from church will say, this is so-and-so, and today we're going to sing this song. So it does feel repetitive, but it gives the person that is not oriented, it gives them that moment of, okay, I know what's happening. I have some type of autonomy and I know what's happening. So that's a different way of using the space. Even you're going to be making music or people are going to come or even pray for them, just introducing yourself. And if I introduce myself now and 3 songs later I have to do it again, I do it again. It's again, don't sweat the small things, adapt, go with it. Just introduce yourself forever until you're done with it.
That's creative caregiving right there.
Yeah.
Here's another question for you. I'm going to pick up on a theme that Dr. Bakan mentioned. Maybe he could elaborate on it, but this is not something unique to Dr. Bakan. I think Dr. Gooding and Hernández and maybe Tomeka can contribute. Could you tell us what therapeutic drumming is and how you've applied it?
Well, actually, I would be inclined to punt that question to Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernández in that, again, I'm not a music therapist. I think there are therapeutic aspects that come into what I do, but first and foremost, I'm a musician and an ethnographer, which means my main interest is actually in trying to understand where people are coming from their own cultural perspective. And if that's a culture of Alzheimer's dementia, if it's a culture of autism, that's just as important as if it's a culture of Balinese gamelan or West African drum ensemble music. So yeah, I have thoughts, but I'm actually going to defer to my colleagues on that one.
I may not let you off the hook after they speak.
You never know. Yeah, we'll see. I may come back.
Go ahead, Dr. Gooding, Dr. Hernández.
So I'm going to let you speak on a broader side, but I'm going to just say from my family cultural perspective, very specific to my family within the culture, it was a lot of percussion going on. So I used it as a cue and as a response. And again, when I didn't have a drum, I had a door and I had some type of surface in which I can do a beat. And in my case, it was a lot of call and response. So I will do a beat and I will wait for the response. And that was like, oh, we're back. We're together. Again, active music making. But we have used therapeutic drumming in so many other aspects, not only for self-expression and emotional regulation. It helps out a lot because you're not going to just randomly hit a drum. There's some purpose. There's some beat. You have an internal beat. So you can connect that internal beat within everything else that is happening and then come in together as well. But in my case, in my personal case, I have used it with my family as a call and response and just being creative again. It's just I need something to get my father back or to get my grandfather back. And it was like, and they go, so it's something going on. But again, it is a lot of emotional regulation and self-expression and also getting everybody together on the same beat.
Mm-hmm. So I think I just summarized what Flor just said, just to simply say that, there's different ways to look at therapeutic drumming depending on whether you're a music therapist or another provider, whether you're in the United States or a different country. But I think it all boils down to therapeutic drumming has a purpose. Mm-hmm. And often that purpose is outside of the music.
Yeah.
So for that emotion regulation or to help dress, like if they're getting dressed, for that to go more smoothly, or if you're trying to help them remember something. So there's a purpose outside of the music, and it's used very intentionally.
Or redirecting a behavior, redirecting something, calling that attention.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's outside.
Yeah, that's very, and Michael, this is my piece for not letting you off the hook. Forgive me. Let's drop the term therapeutic, please, and talk about your work or what you've done with drumming in the community with men.
Yeah, well, I think if I'm thinking about drumming as a functional activity, therapeutic, transcendental, communitarian, all these different kinds of things, I think it provides some real tactile possibilities for some of the things that Dr. Gooding and Dr. Hernández were talking about in their presentation. Building connection with others, connecting in the here and now. You can't drum without doing those things in any kind of a group setting. And I think it's really important to also understand, if we're thinking about applying these practices therapeutically, we want to think about what's happening in the real worlds of professional music making and cultural music making, right? So I've had the opportunity, I played with George Clinton, I played with Tito Puente, I played with, some of these great musicians, some of these great Balinese gamelan musicians. And the thing about it is that it just lifts you up. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel at one, and there doesn't have to be talking, and there doesn't have to be eye contact necessarily. There's a sort of an ability to just immediately urge and merge toward a common experience, a common goal, a common groove. And, we talk about entrainment, we talk about synchronicity. All these kinds of things are just manifest in drumming traditions all over the world. And what I did today with, Solkatu, which is an incredibly complex, difficult form, but if we can sort of distill the essence of what makes it functional in connecting people, in getting them into the here and now, in emotional regulation, then we can capture the same spirit as those amazing musicians in India, say, are capturing in their experience, but in a situation where we're dealing in a respite care room or something like that. And so I think drumming, among other modalities of music, is very powerful.
Thank you, Michael. Well, I just wanted to ask, as you can see here, for one final thought from each of you. We could go on for another hour, but we need to end in a couple or minutes or so. So let's hear from each of you on your final thoughts. I think I'm going to start with Tomeka Norton-Brown.
My final thought would be everything that has been talked about tonight has been about using whatever tool is in your toolkit. If you're a drummer, a guitarist, if you sing, if you hum, if you dance, whatever, just use whatever it is that you have at your disposal. And if you're not sure what to do, feel free to give me a call on our toll-free line, 1-866-778-2724.
Dr. Gooding?
My final thought is very, very simple. Use music.
Thank you.
I think you stole mine. I was going to say, just do something. If you don't know what to do, just do something. Hold space, exist, and enjoy what you have. That is the music. Yeah.
Dr. Bakan?
Well, just piling on, I would say that as someone who studies music in all cultures all around the world from all times, one thing that we learn is that music is a social fact, and music is a birthright for all human beings everywhere. And no one should be denied the experience. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not a musician, because we all are.
Thank you for making it universal for us. I have one thought, and then just a point of information for the group and for the audience. I just want to express the attitude of gratitude for bringing music to the table, music therapy, music in general, as a vehicle for enhancing in communication, well-being, and ultimately connection. This has been a very moving hour and a half. Folks, I'd encourage you to follow us on Acts 2 for our Acts 2 Caregiver Project Facebook website. Our next workshop will focus on nutrition and brain health, particularly strategies for lowering the risk of dementia. We soon will announce the date for this workshop in our Acts 2 Caregiver Project Facebook website. Just have a very rewarding, a blessed holiday. We're so thankful to have the support of the community in the work that we're doing. We inspire to be faithful in the small, just one person being intentional in developing methods for enhancing quality of life and honoring their voices, those who are caregiving and persons with dementia, their experiences, their opinions. And now we have Carolyn Rhines. Thank you so much, Carolyn. We're thankful that you're with us this evening. It was great being with you last week at the Senior Citizens Center in Jackson County. Dr. Novokoski, thank you. I love the affirmation of making music being for everyone. Serena Collins, thanks so much. We appreciate your affirmations. Janelle Gallen, thank you. Interested in using music with a loved one that has dementia? Well, that's the idea. Please contact one of these folks here because they'll be more than willing to and happy to interact with you on that very important initiative. And we thank all of you for tonight and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all.